Welcome to the Fitness Oracle, where we have real conversations with real people just like you, with real stories just like yours. And this is one of their stories. I am your host, John Katsavos. My guest today is Sheila Carroll MD from Sheila Carroll MD Coaching. She is a board certified pediatrician and obesity medicine physician, as well as a life and weight coach. She works with parents who are struggling to keep their kids who are contending with extra weight and helps design a healthy lifestyle that they love with that includes nutrition, sleep, movement, emotional regulation skills so every member in the family can thrive. She also focuses on improving overall health and well-being for everyone in the family, not just the weight of the child. This episode is jam-packed with a lot of amazing content, that amazing value bombs that Sheila or Dr. Carroll gave us. I could have easily spent another 2-3 hours with her just talking about like different topics, but in this episode we focused mainly on modern food in versus the ancient human body that we have, and how it's kind of creating a rift between the two. The jobs of the parents and the jobs of the kids, the parent as a role model. And we get into teenagers and how that challenging aspect of their lives can kind of stir them and deter them and mold them in different aspects for their adult life. And we also talk about sports and influencers on teenagers. So this is a really good episode for you guys to listen to. I know you guys are going to get a ton of value out of it. But before you go, what I want to do is I want to ask you guys a quick question. Are you guys ready to take your life to the next level? Join the Fitness Oracle newsletter today and get exclusive access to a wide range of exciting perks. As a subscriber, you'll be the first to know about our new episodes, and you'll get early access before they're released to the public. But that's not all. You'll also receive a one-on-one call with me where we will discuss your fitness goals, your life goals, and how we can help you achieve them. And you'll get free access to our private community where we hold community calls to talk about the episodes and how you're applying the lessons in the episodes to your life. But that's not all. As a member of our exclusive community, you'll also get access to some exciting programs that we're about to launch, so you can continue your journey towards fulfilling your life. So join the Fitness Oracle newsletter today and start your journey towards a happier, healthier you. Sheila, welcome to the show.
Thanks, John, for having me.
How's Maine? I've never been there before.
Oh my gosh, Maine is lovely. It's a lovely place to live. Today we're getting a torrential downpour, expected to have a lot of rain in the next couple of hours. But in general, I was born and raised here in Portland, and I still live in southern Maine, but we're right on the water. We're not far from the mountains. We've got a ton of nature and space, and I just love it. I love it here. I feel at home here. So
That's awesome. That's
yeah, you should
awesome.
visit. It's so good here.
One day I will. One day I
Yeah.
will. I always ask my guests when I first kick off the show, what got you interested in this line of work that you do?
Two things. I think I'm a pediatric doctor, so I've been a physician for 23 years. So I've always been interested in children's health, helping children, helping families, um, and and at the same time, I've been a person who's struggled with my own weight, and came to coaching a few years ago. Found coaching a few years ago, and found that to be number one, a solution to understanding why I was overweight, helping me lose weight, helping me maintain my weight loss, and help me kind of up level every other aspect of my life as well. So, trying to combine pediatrics with coaching is a little challenging because coaching requires the ability to think about your own thinking, that meta skill of thinking of your own thinking, that requires a developed prefrontal cortex. And our kids do not have a developed prefrontal cortex. That's something they will have down the line, and they're getting it more and more. But for all humans, it's not fully developed until 25 or 26 years old. So asking a child, even a teenager, sometimes to really have the ability to think about what they're thinking about, because with coaching, what we're really doing is looking at our thoughts. What thoughts are we just having? Because we all have very automatic thoughts. Like the neuroscientist experts tell us, we have about 60,000 thoughts a day. So it's just this super highway of thoughts coming from our brains. Not all of those thoughts are accurate, true, believable, helpful in any way to us. Sometimes they are. Sometimes they're great thoughts that we want to latch onto, but sometimes they're not. So what coaching does is help you become aware of the thoughts that you're having, how those thoughts are making you feel, and from that feeling, what you're doing or not doing, which gives you the results you're having in your life.
Yeah.
So if you can't really understand, if you don't have that ability to think about your own thinking, which kids don't usually, um, coaching's not really gonna be effective. So, but parents have that ability, and they have the ability to get a deeper understanding, well, first of all, of themselves, which is going to help their kids, but also of what's really going on in their kids life, meaning, yeah, their kids life, their kids brains, why their kid is doing what their kid is doing, um, and how to help them. So I transitioned out of clinical medicine into coaching parents, of kids.
I have so many questions that you just talked about, but before we get into those juicy questions, have there have has there ever been any moments where you just said, I quit? I'm just gonna go get a 9 to 5. I'm not gonna worry about this anymore. I don't want to deal with coaching anymore. I'm just gonna go work at a clinic and just numb out.
No, honestly, because I had a couple of medical jobs where I felt stifled. I couldn't really help the patients that I was trying to help, for a whole variety of reasons. I'm U.S. based, so I'm here in the United States, obviously in Maine, and our medical system isn't great about, in my opinion, isn't great about preventative care. People, yeah. So I got bored, stifled, frustrated, and frankly burnt out by our current medical system. You need to see this many patients. You need to do this. You need to do this. You need to do this. And it wasn't great for the patients. It's not great for the physicians. And so coaching was actually um, an opening door, like a beacon of light, so to speak. It's just so powerful and so freeing, and I hope more and more and more people become aware of coaching, because the wonderful changes that I have experienced in my life, not just my weight, but just how I feel about life in general. Man, I think everyone could benefit from that.
Um, we won't veer off the theme of this topic because I can get into how the Canadian hospital system is also failing as well.
Hmm.
And
It's really sad and hard to see for our patients, for people who need help, want help, and it's just so frustrating, as a doctor, and I'm
and
sure as a patient. I mean, it's just a challenge right now.
well, yeah, when the patient feels like a revolving door, I mean, it doesn't really
Mhm.
do anything for patient care. And I know quite a lot of doctors. I used to work in a hospital myself, and I know they feel the same
Mhm.
frustrations as well. It's like,
Mhm.
well, how are we supposed to take care of 250 to 100 patients at the same time? It's hard. It's very difficult.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
But keeping on the theme of the episode where we're talking about food and kids and parents and all that really, really, really important stuff, in my opinion, because it is. If nutrition starts from the house and it goes outward, how has the modern food environment affecting us somatically? Because I've heard this one stat that our genes, yes, our DNA only goes through one transformation, one adaptation every 1,000 years. So how have, because we have gotten so fast and gone so far with our food supply, how is that affecting us as adults, and what can we do for our kids to make sure that they, I don't want to say eliminate it from their diet, because I think that's an impossibility, but at least I make them aware, and so that they can control it in their older years.
This is exactly the issue, and this is what, I'm working on, trying to educate people exactly what you're saying. Us parents, we need to understand the modern food environment that we're all living in, that we're all swimming in, and how our very ancient human body isn't designed to handle these highly processed, ultra processed foods, and it's wreaking havoc on our physical health, our mental health, and our bodies. So, about 50 years ago, there wasn't very much childhood obesity at all. I don't have the exact stat, but I think it's something like 6% of kids in the 1960s, 1950s, 1960s, only 6% of children were considered overweight or obese. That's a very small percentage. Now it's the latest data, is from 2017, 2018. So even pre-pandemic, um, it's somewhere between 20 and 30%. So in that 50 years, there's just been this increase in overweight. And just what you're saying is our genes haven't changed at that time, in that amount of time, but what's changed is the food, and our bodies, you know, how I explain it to kids and parents, it's kind of like we have the same exact body, as our ancestors, say 250 years ago, or and we, sometimes I ask kids, who's the oldest person you can think of, and sometimes they say their grandparent, and sometimes they think George Washington or Abraham Lincoln, and I'm like, good, okay, so what was Abraham Lincoln eating? So if you go back and you look, there wasn't all of this highly processed foods. And so what's happening is these foods that are designed by businesses in a lab somewhere to make money for their company, they're not designed for our health, right? That's the first thing that I think you can educate your kid to that. Kids are they don't like being tricked. They're very savvy to that. Like, oh, okay, so for example, Doritos, my son loves Doritos. But what I say to him is like, yeah, they taste really good, and they're very easy to eat and overeat, obviously. But the people making Doritos aren't really concerned about your health at all. They're concerned about selling those Doritos. So they've made them with just the right amount of whatever inside of them, so you'll keep eating them. That's just good for you to know, because now you can choose whether you want to keep eating them or not. But what's important for parents to understand is why your kid loves all of that food, why you love all of that food too. It's our human brains evolutionarily over time grew to seek out sugar, and because two things: it gave us a quick gave it gives us pleasure through the dopamine pathway in our brain. We like that. And it's also connected to the dopamine learning pathway in our brain, where we eat it and we're like, oh, this is good, this tastes good, this is good for me, and I want more of it. So that's when our ancestors would come across a patch of berries or find some apples in season on a tree or whatever. But now we're having that every single 24/7, at the local convenience store, wherever we find that stuff. And it's super concentrated. So we're getting more dopamine. So our brains are like, oh, this is even better. Oh, this is even more strongly connected to, like, this is good for me. So our bodies are just doing what they were designed to do: keep us alive, store energy for future hard times. But the problem is, in today's world, there are no hard times, right? For us, for most people.
Yeah.
Um, Meaning, like, that we're not starving, we're not going through long periods without nutrition. Um, so like you said, I don't think, the businesses are going to just all of a sudden stop selling these very unhealthy foods. I don't think Coca-Cola is going to say, you know what? I think we've done enough damage. I don't think they're ever going to. They're going for the money. The only recourse that we have is to understand what's happening and choose wisely. You know, it's fine to have some of that some of the time, but our bodies can't handle that most of the time.
Do you think that the US FDA should put stronger measures intact for these corporations to say, you know what, you guys are killing the people? Like they back off with all these dyes and colors and all
I
this
wish.
stuff.
Yes, I wish. Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you think about, why does Coca-Cola even exist? It's so bad for people. It's created so many problems, and over in other countries and other parts of the world, it's wreaking havoc too.
Mhm.
And there's not a single health benefit to drinking a Coke.
No,
So, so, like, why? So,
100%.
but it's just for them. It's just money. This
Yeah.
is this is this is what we're facing. So this is what parents are facing. And not to mention all the marketing that goes towards kids. And this is the water that all parents are swimming in, myself included. I have an 11-year-old son, Theo, and he loves all those things. Um, and it's a challenge to constantly be trying to figure out how to navigate the system. But what I think we need to do, kind of what we do already for drugs and alcohol with our kids, cigarettes with our kids. We start when they're young, providing education to them. These things aren't healthy for you, you know, and over the long term, if we or you keep eating them or using them, your body may probably have some changes, metabolic dysfunction that you might not want to have. And so it's kind of like the same thing, smokers, you can smoke for 20 years, you might never develop cancer. You might never have a problem. It's probably not great for your body physiologically, but you might never, develop that problem. You can eat, these foods. You might not get overweight even. You might not even ever develop a weight problem, but it's still not good for you metabolically. Sometimes I see parents with kids who are thin and very thin, and average weight or normal weight kids, and their kids are eating all of these highly processed foods. But sometimes parents don't see that as a problem. because their kids aren't having a weight problem, or they're not having a weight problem yet. But still, those foods are not good for those little kids' bodies' metabolic health at all.
Playing devil's advocate just a little bit here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in America and in Canada, and I'm sure around the world, where the parents, they're working like two jobs just to make ends meet, both parents. It's like, where are they going to find the time to cook a healthy meal and prepare it properly and do all this and do all that? It takes time to make a meal. So from I agree with you. I agree that, you know what, food starts at the home, and it's the parents' responsibility to make sure that the kids are eating properly. But when both parents are working two jobs just to make ends meet, it can get very difficult.
I 100% agree, and I empathize. And I'm a only parent. I'm a single parent to my son. His dad lives in a different country even. So when I used to have my clinical job, sometimes I would work 24 hours in a row, and it's hard to come home and cook. And I get it. And it's expensive to shop. It's a pain. One thing that I don't like is going to the grocery store so frequently. It's much easier to buy stuff that you can just keep in your cabinet and use. I don't like going to the grocery store all the time. However, this is just a choice and a decision and a priority that we have to make. You have to say, like, well, what are going to be the results of what I'm doing right now, and for my child, for my family, for myself. And I think that it's just you have to start somewhere and inch your way, one little step forward, one little step forward. What can I do today? What can I do? How can I do this? Can I spend an hour, can I find an hour somewhere prepping vegetables or prepping dinner? Also, like, a good tool is meal planning. I think that helps super
Mhm.
busy parents eat well and stay true to their goals. Plan your meals in advance, and that way you already know what you're going to have for dinner. So when things go sideways at your job and you're like, oh my gosh, now it's 6 o'clock and I'm late and the kids are this and here, you're already like, okay, nope, I've planned, we're having, roasted chicken or whatever. And then you follow your plan instead of getting takeout, or veering off for a more comfort food, or a less healthy choice, so to speak. It's not easy. I 100, and this is the problem. This is why we're at where we're at. And it's just so much easier to get takeout, or go through the drive-through, or buy the processed foods that can sit in your cupboard. So I agree, it's not easy, but we need to do it, and we have to make it a priority for the health of our kids, to prevent problems for them down the line. And
Mhm.
also for ourselves, like, to keep ourselves healthy as as the parents, and help our kids.
At what point does it become um, important for the kid to say, you know what, mom or dad, um, I want a home cooked meal? At what point does that come into play?
That would be wonderful if kids would do that.
They don't.
Um,
They don't.
I haven't quite figured out how to get my son to that place yet. Um, but this is we just went on, it was just school vacation, so we went to visit a close friend of mine down in South Carolina, and she has a son too. But because we were kind of on vacation and having fun, we ate out a lot. And after like 2 days of that, I was just like, ugh, I wanna cook something like that's gonna really taste good and make me feel better after I eat it. But my son was not really ready for that. He was loving all the things, out. And so I don't think we can expect our kids to do that. Some kids might be able to do that, but not every kid is going to be able to do that. Um, and I think what we're really trying to go for, what I think is the one of the goals of teaching your kid about nutrition. And yes, it's nutrition, but it's also like healthy habits, a healthy lifestyle is nutrition, sleep, getting good sleep, moving your body, and also learning emotional regulation skills. So this it's nutrition is so important, and but also all of these other things are also super important too. But what I think is the best approach is teaching your kid, teaching your children what you want them to learn over time and developmentally as their brain matures, from 10 years old to 14 years old to 16 years old. What we really want for them is to want to live a healthy lifestyle. I have so many parents say to me, "How do I get my kid to eat more vegetables?" Or how do I get my kid to stop vaping? Or, how do I get my kid to get off his phone? And the more important or the bigger question is, how do we get our kids to want to stop vaping? How do we get them to want to exercise, to want to go to bed on time, And so that speaks to intrinsic motivation. And what that depends on is helping the child or the teen or the adolescent understand that the choices that they're making are are tied to the consequences or the results that they're going to experience. For example, if you stay up until 2 a.m., the next day, and maybe 2 days or 3 days after that, you're going to be tired. And so helping them understand, do you like feeling tired? Or do helping them understand that their choices and the consequences of their choices. And a lot of that is trial and error. They're going to have to make mistakes, quote mistakes. And as parents, we have to allow them that autonomy. And us parents have to learn how to manage our own emotions and our own thoughts and feelings when our child is making a choice that we really wish they weren't making.
Mhm.
And we know that they really, frankly, would be better off if they didn't make that choice. But we have to figure out a way to stay connected to them, be supportive of them, have empathy for them, allow them to go through that learning curve, but yet keep on with our message of, I'm here and I'm going to educate you as to what I think is the healthiest, the way for you to stay the healthiest and happiest as possible.
Speaking of education, at what point did the schools play a role in this? Because the kids, for about, I'd say, like just about a third of the day, they're in class. Well, they're supposed to be in class and supposed to be learning. Um, Food and concentration are go hand in hand, first and foremost. And if you see some of the foods that the cafeterias serve, I don't know how it is in America, I don't know how it is in Maine, but I know here,
Bad.
yeah, here it's terrible. Here
Yeah,
it's
same.
terrible. Like you
Yeah.
can get like deep fried chicken fingers at the high school right across from
Mhm.
in the cafeteria.
Mhm.
So at what point does the education system have to come in play and say, you know what, for at least one meal you're going to get a good meal, just so you can focus and concentrate on your studies.
Well, that would be wonderful, but here we're back. We're right back to the same question: who runs at least in the United States, like the government funds the public schools,
Same
and
here.
the government chooses what foods they're going to supply, or I think the school systems have some wiggle room in that, but there's all of these policies that support the food systems in the school. So you have, like, I think it's the USDA, and I am really not an expert in this kind of thing, but for example, who's ever making the food regulations, the food pyramid or the my plate. Now they have my plate. But they're the same people who are subsidizing the farmers to make corn, grow corn, which is immediately turned into high fructose corn syrup. So the same people are making these recommendations for our kids to eat, who are supporting the very foods that are causing so much damage in our kids and ourselves and our adults. So yeah, it'd be wonderful if the schools, i.e. slash government, would step in and um, change what they're offering our kids. But again, I don't think that that's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Yeah.
Again, it falls back on the parent, right? Instead of giving little Johnny and little Jenny school lunch money, pack them a lunch.
Yeah, that would be great. And then, the same thing, my son is now at this age where he bikes around town and he's, in school and he can choose, foods on his own. Um, and it's just, so it's for me, I've decided I don't want to be so controlling of him. You can't do that. I'm telling your teachers, I'm telling the school, they can't serve you. I am allowing him to make these choices and I'm trying to educate him. I am educating him. You know, I can't tell how much is Sometimes yesterday I saw him with a big snow cone in his hand because it was Little League opening day here in America, or at least in our town yesterday. And, they had a Little League game. And then to quote, celebrate, they gave the kids free tickets to a food truck. And one of the most popular food trucks there was the snow cone thing. So it's just ice with sugar, multicolored dyed sugar. And I can tell you there's 250 kids, probably 200 kids chose that food truck,
Of course.
And so that's not the government. That's our society. That's our culture. That's our culture thinking food adds fun. Like sugary foods is a reward. Oh, it's a treat. This is going to make opening day. This is going to make Little League opening day even better, you know? That's a cultural shift that we can make ourselves. You know, what I'm trying to show my son and teach parents is that food is just food. It doesn't make something better. It doesn't make your day better. It doesn't make, and in fact, when you put it all together, the consequences of eating that could in fact make your day down the line a lot worse. But we still reward ourselves. This is emotional eating. This is what we're talking about, right? Emotional eating is eating for any reason other than other than you're truly physically hungry. So if you're truly physically hungry after playing Little League, snow cone is not really option number one to fuel your body in a way that your body needs. So the snow cone was just for fun and adding enjoyment. But it's just such a complex message that we're sending these kids all the time.
But at some point, it's kind of important to have the junk. Like it's, I find it hard to, especially with kids. Like I remember when I was a kid, playing on my grandmother's street. We were running up and down. Myself, my sister, my cousins, my friends, we were all high on sugar. We would buy these tubes filled with sugar, colored sugar, and we would just drink it like it was a drink, and then have a Coke on top of it just to wash it down. So, but those were good days. Like I remember those days. They were a lot of fun because we were all high on sugar. I mean, okay, we all have cavities because of it. We probably have some underlying issues because of it, but whatever. We were just.
But were you having fun? Maybe you were having so much fun because you're with your friends and you're running around. What about the kids in the 1940s and 1950s who were running around without Coca-Cola and without those pixie sticks or whatever you're talking about? Like they're having fun. Kids have had fun all along.
No, I know, but I'm I agree with you. I agree with you. Coming from the health from the health industry, I agree with you that you know what, sugar is not a good thing for kids. But I'm just saying, like sometimes a kid just has to be a kid and just enjoy the sugar sometimes.
Okay, so there, that thought that you're having, that you're tying being a kid with eating sugar. It's like, just be a kid, just eat sugar, just let them have fun. I That, and that thought is really not a truth. It's not a fact that to be a kid you need to eat sugar. And I'm not advocating we take all of our sugar away from kids, or we clamp down 100% and refuse to let them eat any of that stuff. But what I am saying is, and here in America at least, we have 20, we'll go with the low end, 1 in 5 kids is overweight slash obese.
Mhm.
And we're not talking about, I don't care about the way your child looks or their physical appearance, but it's what's going on inside their body, that it's metabolically, the metabolic changes that are going on that are leading to that extra weight gain. Those are dangerous over time for your child. And so, kind of lost my train of thought there, but sorry, but I just don't think that, I think that that thought that all of us parents have, which I used to have that thought myself too, like, oh, it's just kids, let them have fun, whatever. Yes, but is there a way to have fun with every day without this kind of you know harm that we're causing our kids? That's what I think is, it's just important for parents to know that down the line, over time, the food choices, they are creating harm in the vast majority. I mean, look at the adult populations, you know, and and they started as kids,
Yeah.
even these kids who are thin. So it's really not about weight, it's about health. And that's what I'm saying to people all the time. Like, we can just take weight, we can take BMI off the table. I don't care. It's not about the size, it's not about the what you look like. It's about how you feel, number one, and your long-term health, and preserving that for our kids.
No, I agree with you because there's more to that story than just, you know, letting a kid be a kid and just eat sugar because
Mm,
it will lead to mental being able
mm.
to deal with your emotions when you're an adult. As an adult, it you know, eating a lot tons of sugar when you're a kid could potentially, I'm really reaching for this one, could lead to depression later on in your life. I'm really reaching on that one. I have nothing to base it on. I have no studies to base it on. I'm just thinking of all the damage that the sugar is doing to neural pathways in the brain. There's a lot of bad stuff that can happen. I'm just trying. I look at my two nephews, for example, and they're two different boys. Okay, same parents, two very different boys. One, the older one, he likes his sugar, but he would rather go for a healthy snack. The younger one only wants sugar.
Mm.
It's just how they were, how they grew up. Like it's it's hard to push the young one to say, you know what, have the apple instead of the lollipop. You
His
know,
brain, yeah, they're different, they're wired differently, and we all are. Everybody's response is slightly different, and, that's why in the past, this shaming, of overweight, of people who are overweight, "Oh, it's a personal failure, you just didn't make the right choices, there's something wrong with you," just, that has been so damaging to so many people. And because it's just not true. All of our I am the same way. I'm one of 5 kids, and I was eating the same thing as my brothers and sisters. And, for example, just one of my sisters remained very thin her entire childhood. And I was not. I was overweight as a 10-year-old. And we're same families, same parents, and our bodies are just wired differently. Um, and so we have to accept, or we have to recognize that. And I don't know if you've read anything by Gary Tobes.
No.
He's written some really wonderful books, but he uses this phrase, "Those of us that fatten easily," and I
Mm.
kind of really like that because it there are a group of people that would eat something and their body is predisposed to store that extra energy as fat, whereas somebody else can eat the same thing and not gain weight. So that's another thing to just become aware of. Oh, I think I am a person who tends to gain easily. It's kind of like you have to look at that like, oh, I'm a person, my final adult height is 5'1". I wish it wasn't. I wish I was 6 feet tall, but I'm not. I'm short.
Mm.
And so I just have to, okay, so how do I work with that? I have brown hair, I have brown eyes. These are things I accept about myself. And the same thing, oh, I'm a person who tends to gain easily. So what do I have to do to create the situation I want for myself?
Mhm. Um, let's switch gears a little bit from little kids and let's get into the very, I want to say, challenging part of a human's life, their teenage years. Uh, there's a lot that's happening in teenagers, from hormonal imbalances, hormonal changes, to uh, understanding that life isn't fair, to understanding that being part of certain groups will help you get more further in life than other certain groups, which again falls into the life isn't fair. And to add in all this food, this easy to consume food. Now, I know teenagers these days, I don't know how it is in Maine, but here in Toronto, most teenagers do not have jobs. I know when I was a teenager, I was working from the tender age of 14 illegally. Um, so now I have an influx of money, which I can buy food more easily and stuff more easily. Um, how would you talk to a teenager so that they can understand, you know what, you're still not out of the woods with a sugar thing. Try to make better decisions with your with what goes into your mouth. At least control that.
Yeah, this is a very challenging topic for sure. And for kids, they and a teenager's brain, yes, more developed than an 11-year-old brain, but still not fully developed. And their prefrontal cortex is not done maturing until 25, 26 years old. So education, parental education to or a physician education to the child or to the teen about the potential harms of sugar, or why we think you shouldn't be eating this much processed foods. And at the same time, okay, this is why we think eating more fruits and vegetables are good for you, eating more protein, drinking water instead of soda or sports energy drinks. So educating them to what their body actually needs and potentially the harms of the other choices they're making. I also think, educating them to why they're kind of craving might be the wrong word, but why their brain is suggesting to them to stop at the convenience store and buy the candy, you know, and that our brains are wired for sugar. We're wired for that dopamine hit, but we can override that. And 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 that's the way we are going to create health for ourselves, stay healthy. um and sleep is so important for teenagers. Most teenagers are not getting enough sleep, and when you're not getting enough sleep, your body has some hormonal changes that actually make you hungrier, for kind of less healthy food, so to speak. So just I think it's just health education on all of these things, and kind of like we said before, the same thing we do for alcohol and cigarettes and drugs with our kids. We're educating them, and then they are going out into the world by themselves and they are making their choices. Um, and so we as parents stay connected to them, stay understanding, stay curious about why they're making the choices, and help them make the connections between the choices that they're making and how they're feeling in their body, how things are going at school, their relationships with their friends and teachers and coaches, um, and trying to help them connect, what they're choosing to do with how the experience of their life is going.
You said something there, and I want to touch up on this a little bit deeper. It brought up the thought of when you said energy drinks. I remember when I was a teenager in high school. I apologize, my camera's acting up right now.
That's totally fine. I was thinking it was my problem because of this. Just getting a ton of rain right now.
No, it's my camera. My camera
Okay,
is just being bad.
no problem.
um, when I was in high school, I remember looking. Gatorade had just come out, and I think it was the head coach of the Miami Dolphins had created it, and he created all of these amazing studies and this and that, and how great Gatorade was. Um, and we just find out later on it was just sugar and water with
Mhm,
food coloring.
mhm, mhm.
So how do we I don't want to say how do we protect the teenagers, because at that stage in a teenager's life, I don't think he can protect anybody.
Well, this is the problem. So, the educate them that, so for example, the American Heart Association, CDC, Center for Disease Control, the daily recommended amount of grams of sugar for someone who's 2 years old to 19 years old, or into adulthood, is 24, 20 to, or 25 grams of sugar total in one day. A Gatorade has, well, different depending, but the last Gatorade bottle that I looked at, the label, it had 39 grams of sugar in that one bottle. And that doesn't even talk about the dyes and all the chemicals. And so yeah, it's called Gatorade, I think, because the Florida Gators, which is the
Yeah,
Florida, like one of the
yeah,
college teams. Yeah, and
yeah.
those football players are out in the Florida sun exercising, 8 hours a day in preseason, I think, and then they develop this drink with electrolytes and sugar to kind of keep them hydrated and keep them going. But most people drinking those are not under those strenuous circumstances.
My question was going to go towards the influencers, the athletes, the models, the high ranking people out there that are pushing these products. How do
Yeah,
you tell how do you tell the teenager, look, they're just getting a paycheck out of this, you know?
yeah. Yeah, it's the same thing, yes. Why do you think, I don't even know who's advertising Gatorade right now, but you and I have been talking a little bit of hockey, and at least here in the United States, they are pushing this gambling. I don't know if that's going on
Yeah.
in Canada, but there's,
Bet 365 or something. And they
yeah,
have
FanDuel or something
oh
like that.
here they have like Wayne Gretzky and Connor
Yeah,
McDavid.
Wayne
Like,
Gretzky,
come
some of
on.
these idols, like, oh my gosh, why are you telling people to gamble? I mean, it's just it's so disappointing, honestly, to tell you the truth. And so, yeah, so when I'm watching hockey with my son, I'm saying, these are big celebrities telling people, to do this, and it's fun, looks fun or whatever, but they're telling people to do that. They're just getting money. They're just getting paid. It's just money in their pocket. And unfortunately, they haven't decided that it's not worth it for them, It's not it's money. Is everybody wants money.
Yeah, Wayne Gretzky. Wayne Gretzky wasn't somebody that I looked up to as a kid. I think it's after he left Edmonton, I lost interest in
That
Mr.
happened to Tom
Gretzky.
Brady with my dad, with Tom Brady after he left the New England Patriots. My dad was like, "We're done. We're totally done." It's really more of a broken heart than anything else.
Well, for me, it's interesting because I was in high school when he got traded, and that's when I realized he has no loyalty. These influencers out there, they
Yeah,
have no
yeah,
loyalty.
it's
It's
a job. Yeah.
yeah, they're
But
they're
also
loyal.
Edmonton would trade him if it was going to work out for him. So, for me at least, I don't think it's sometimes it's the players, yes, but also it's the clubs. They're just businessmen, The team, we're here in Maine, we love the Boston Bruins. That's our people. And Cam Neely and Don Sweeney, they'll trade anybody. If it's gonna benefit them, it's not personal. They're protecting their business. And so the players protect themselves. And
Yeah,
they're just getting the money that they can while they can get it. But it's not helpful for our kids, for sure, you know?
yeah, because here's these influencers, and
Yeah,
these kids they fall in love with the influencer. They do. It's
100%,
it's human
100%.
nature.
Yeah.
Um, and it's sad. And for me, it was heartbreaking to see Wayne Gretzky leave the Edmonton Oilers to go to the LA Kings, and I realized there's no loyalty in this world anymore. There isn't. There really isn't. I'm like, it made me even happier when the Edmonton Oilers won the Stanley Cup. I think it was 2 seasons after.
Mm,
It made it so much sweeter,
yeah.
so much sweeter. I am uh, in the Western Conference. I am an Oilers fan. I still am, but here, sorry, I'm a Leafs fan.
Yeah. I know. I know. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. But we'll see. We'll see if they play the way they played last night. They're done. They're
Well,
done.
they made it through the first round, so that's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the problem. So this is what parents are are struggling with. And um I think for me, I'm just at a place where I accept that you have to come to some kind of acceptance of the world that we're living in. And then what I say to myself is, I'm going to control what I can control,
Yeah.
which is what I do, which is how I show up for my son, how I educate my son, kind of the values we have as a family. Um, and because that's the only thing I can control. The truth is, even though my son is only 11, I can't control him. Even if you have a 2-year old, you really can't control a 2-year old. Every human has their own agency. So we can influence them, we can guide them. We want to be kind of the co-pilot to but they're really the pilot of their own life.
That's
Um,
so
and
true.
and accepting that, and accepting that actually is so powerful for the parent too. It's very freeing. And you're not like, fine, I accept it. Do whatever you want to do. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is like, okay, my son or my daughter, they're on their own journey. I'm going to support them, stay connected to them, stay loving them, stay helping them. And I'm going to be watching and seeing what they do and who they really are and letting them live their life.
Mhm. Amen to that. Amen
Mm.
to that. We are coming close to the end of the show. And these are the 7 or 8 questions I ask all my guests. And I just like to get your perspective on these 7 or 8 topics. With the increase in people suffering from depression from the past 2 to 3 years of the uncertainty that we've been living through, what would be the one thing that you could tell them to keep their hopes up?
Well, for I think one thing that's been helpful for me in the past when I've been having some issues, so some period, low periods, so to speak, is to really understand that um, nothing is permanent. Things change. So while you might be feeling low or depressed now, it doesn't mean you're always going to be feeling that way. That was important for me, even though it's really hard to accept when you're not feeling that good. It actually really is the truth, because look at it like when we're happy or something's going great, we feel, we just get a promotion or, whatever, and you're feeling great, but that feeling great doesn't last forever either. That fades away over time. So trying to keep it in perspective. And for kids, what I help parents understand is that we need to educate our kids when they're young that half of life, probably 50, 50-50, the 50-50 of life, 50% of life is like on the easier to tolerate emotion side of things, happy, calm, peaceful. And then the other half is kind of the more challenging feelings to feel. But it's normal to not feel happy all the time. It's normal to have some levels of depression. If it's interfering with your daily life, if it's causing lots of problems for you, then you need to go to your doctor and seek extra help, or get therapy. But it's normal. Sometimes my son is like, whatever, mad, sad, doesn't want to go to school, and I'm like, it's normal. It's normal to feel that way. You're not
Mhm.
supposed to feel happy all the time. I had a patient one time or a mom tell me, this was the whole premise of the visit, was that she felt like her daughter, her teenager, should be happier than she was. The mother estimated that her child was happy, uh, like, yeah, about 50% of the time. But the mom, in her own mind, said, I'm thinking she should be happy 80% of the time. She goes, for example, we just got a new puppy, and she's happy about the puppy and she plays with the puppy, but she's not quite as happy as I think she should be about the puppy. And it is really like, I don't want to say heartwarming, but I think this, as parents, we do want our kids to be happy all the time. We do want, other people, our friends, our parents, we do want other people to be happy. That would be so wonderful, wouldn't it be? But the truth is, it's not real life. And frankly, if you're happy all the time, you've nothing to compare it to. So you wouldn't even know you're happy all the time.
Mhm.
But I think preparing your child that life is this whole spectrum of feelings. And we, like ride waves up and down of all of these feelings. And it's normal to have negative feelings half of the time.
Very cool. What's the one thing that you do daily that amplifies your ability to stay focused?
I make sure that I get good sleep. I sleep, if I'm not rested well, my focus is challenged. And I spent years of my life, literally 20 years, as a physician, um, up all night at times. getting terrible sleep. For 10 years, I had a job where I would work the day shift and then the night shift, day shift, night shift, day shift, night shift. Honestly have sometimes have very little recollection from some of those years because my sleep was so terrible. One day I'd be working 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The next day 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. up all night. So sleep to me is something also that if you're an adult and you're not getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep, if you prioritize that before you even change anything you eat or trying to get yourself to exercise if you haven't been exercising for a long time, you prioritize your sleep, you are going to feel so much better. I mean, sleep is so magical for so much health improvement. It is, to me, the lowest hanging fruit. Sometimes parents, especially parents of younger kids, like they've been through a rough day, they finally get their child to bed, and then they just be like, "Oh, I need some me time. I just need to," they flick on Netflix or whatever and just kind of zone out. But instead of doing that, if you went to bed and got, instead of watching Netflix or scrolling for an hour and a half, you got that extra sleep, you are going to experience so many health benefits, mood benefits, it's just incredible. So sleep is so powerful.
Yes, 100%. Um, there's other health benefits of leaving the screen off.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Yeah.
If you could pick up the phone right now and call yourself at 20 years old, what would you tell
Oh,
yourself?
jeez. Um, that's a hard question. That's tough. I guess I would tell myself, you're already 100% valuable. You're already 100% worthy. There's nothing you need to do to be more valuable. Because I think, you know, that is such an important message. I tell all I tell my patients, but I tell my son this all the time. As a human, you're born, perfectly valuable. There's nothing you need to do. You don't need to earn a degree to be more valuable or to be more worthy. You don't need to lose weight to be more acceptable, to be more valuable. You're already there. And from that place of your cup already being full, then what do you want to do to evolve and grow and stretch and live your life? Because sometimes, I think, especially as a 20-year-old for me, I just felt sometimes, and I was an overweight 20-year-old, so I felt less than. I felt like not quite, not valuable in a lot of ways. Anyways, that's, I guess, what I would say looking back.
Well, looking back, would you change anything?
um It's hard to say. I guess I'll just say no. Yes, of course I would change things. But I appreciate what I have right now. So when I look at my, just lovely 11-year-old son, if I look back and say, "Oh, I probably wouldn't become a doctor. I probably wouldn't have gone to, if for example I changed that thing about myself, then I probably wouldn't have my exact son who I have right now." You know? So, I guess I'll say no, um, and of course, yes.
Tweaks along the way, right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
What scares you?
Well, bringing it back to my work, I am scared about our health. I'm scared about the world that we're living in right now with this food system um, and and how us doctors and the medical system aren't doing. And it may be because our hands are tied and all of the things, but our patients are suffering emotionally, physically, and it's getting worse, and people's health is getting worse. And if if people don't take control of their own health and understand what's going on, I think that that's just going to keep getting worse. So that's a little, that's fright. I'm frightened for the children's health, honestly. You know, for example, all of these diseases, type 2 diabetes, fatty liver disease, heart disease, high blood pressure, sleep apnea. These are things we used to only see in adults, but now they're shifting down to younger and younger ages because of the lifestyle. So, and when you don't have your health, you don't have much else, if you are unhealthy and not feeling good and you have $2 million in the bank, you probably don't care, because you can't do what you want to do, so health is so valuable.
Yeah. And we can go off on another podcast on what you just said.
Yeah.
Where do you see Sheila Carroll MD coaching in the next 5 years?
Well, I would love more and more parents to just become introduced to the idea of coaching. And so I'm hoping, going on podcasts like yours. Coaching is just so powerful and is such a game changer. And it's so accessible and easy to do. Um, and all the skills and tools that you can learn with coaching up level your life. So my goal, especially with my business, is trying to help the kids but also help the parents enjoy their life and enjoy their kids more. So I'm that's for the next 5 years I'm just going to be working on trying to spread this message and empower parents as much as I can.
Very cool. How about you personally? Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Um, I let's see. I'm 55, so I will be being 60 in the next 5 years. My son's 11, so he'll be 16 or 17, and he'll still be in high school. The truth is, John, I'm really happy. I love where we live. I love what I'm doing for work. I'm so happy with my son and our relationship, and so I hope, for the next 5 years, if I can be kind of where I'm at right now, I'm I'll be really thrilled with that too.
Awesome. Where can people find more about you?
I have a website. It's my whole name, SheilaCarrollMD.com. That's probably the easiest place. I'm also on Instagram. I'm just getting used to being on Instagram at Sheila Carroll MD. Those are probably the easiest places.
Cool. We'll post all the links for people to have easy
Oh,
access to
thank
you and your content. And if they need to reach out to you to have a conversation, we'll post those links with the show notes as well.
thank you, John.
Any final thoughts?
No, this has been a great conversation. It's so wide reaching. And this is just such a important topic. And so I really want to thank you for talking with me and all your thoughts and insights.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. I think this is a very important topic to have. Um, Even for a lot of men that are down and out, one potential reason why they may be down and out is because they don't know what to do with their kids if they have kids. It's a big for any self-respecting man out there. I mean, you are the cornerstone of your family, and if you can't support your family, what kind of, for me at least, what kind of a man are you? And if that's weighing down on you, to have a conversation with you, for us to have this conversation, just to bring it up to the forefront, maybe it might help another man to say, you know what, maybe I need to get at least the food part. Maybe that's the thing that I need to control. So I think I admire you for coming out and talking about this topic, because like I said, it is a very important topic to have, important discussion to have. So thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, John. Thanks.
Going through hard times is just a test. What you need to know is that when you get out of whatever you're going through, you will be stronger than ever before, and you don't need to go through it alone. Always know that you are not alone. Stay tuned for more real people with amazing stories that are just like yours. Until then, to everyone out there listening, I wish you a good morning, good afternoon, or good night, wherever you may be in this crazy world. Hey guys, John from Resilient Reboot Productions and the Fitness Oracle. I just wanted to thank you for watching this episode, and I really do hope that you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell, and share this episode if you are watching this on YouTube or on Rumble. If you are listening to this on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Breaker FM, or whatever streaming service that you may be using, please give us a 5-star rating and a positive review, as it will help us reach out to more people that are suffering from mental health issues. Now, if you haven't done so already, I am offering access to a free weekly newsletter that we send out every Sunday, and it's jam-packed with podcasting tips and health and wellness tips to keep you balanced in the podcasting and content creating space. So if you haven't done so already, sign up to this free newsletter. It's totally free, and it also gives you access to the Fitness Oracle private community in Mighty Networks, where we talk about this episode. We talk about how you have implemented these lessons that you've picked up in your life and how it's impacted your life. And we are working on a lot of great other programs and support systems for you guys to be able to access. So if you haven't done so already, sign up to the newsletter, and I'll see you guys on the inside.